Have you ever had a moment in your life that was just so good you might describe it as a mountaintop experience? Maybe you accomplished a really difficult task, or you set a goal and you finally got there. Maybe you ran a marathon. Maybe you got a great score on your exam. Maybe you passed a big exam that was going to be a defining factor in your life. Maybe you had a really difficult conversation with a loved one or a coworker, and you have this after effect where your adrenaline's high and you feel like this invincibility comes over you, and you're just so proud of yourself and you feel like everything's really, really great. I call that a mountaintop experience. When you're sitting on top of the mountain after you've made the climb, it looked like it was going to be so difficult, and you overcame all these challenges. You went over all this rough terrain, and you finally made it to the peak. And at the peak, the view is great, and you look around and you see in all these great views, great sights, and you feel inspired. You feel really, really, really good. But then at some point, we realize that we have to leave the mountain. At some point, we realize that it's time to go. We can't stay on top of the mountain forever. And there's only one real good reason for that. That's because there's another mountain to climb. And how do we get to the next mountain? To get to the next mountain, we have to go through the valley. And what a valley is quite literally the in-between of two mountains. Right? Here's one mountain, here's the other mountain, and in between is the valley. And if you want to get from this mountain to this mountain, so you might be on this mountain right now looking over at this mountain, and you start to realize that the view from here was great and it was good, but I'm being called to something greater, something more, something higher. And you could stay here. You could stay here where it's comfortable and you don't have to go down into the valley and back up to a higher mountain. But you know in your heart of hearts that you can't stay there. You know that staying there will only contribute to more pain in your life, and going up to the higher mountain is what you were made to do. And there's always going to be a higher mountain. And so what I want to talk about today is making that transition from one mountain to the next, leveling up, and how we can do that. When sitting on top of the mountain feels so good, so great, so awesome, just to have ourselves kind of kicked down from our pedestal, to get dropped down, only to be raised back up again. When we're on top of the mountain, it is really easy to feel good and to be grateful. It's very easy to recognize everything that's going well. It's very easy to recognize our talents and abilities and belief in ourselves. But when we're going through the valley, it gets a lot more difficult. I think some of the most inspiring people are people who know how to handle the valley with grace and ease. People who have overcome diseases, illnesses, major life changes, traumas, traumatic events. The list goes on. Things that I can't conceive, pains that I can't really understand. There are people who have gone into extremely deep valleys and have come up on the other side as a victorious mountain climber and inspired and changed the world. And you can do that too. And I believe you can do that too. It just takes a little courage to step into the valley, to hop off that little mountain, to reach for the higher mountain, and to have the courage to step into the valley. There's a verse in the Bible that says, "Yeah, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me." And I think that's a great way to frame walking into the valley, is knowing that we all have the ability to connect with God on our descent into the valley, and knowing that no matter what we come across when we're in in what feels like a scary valley, things are going to get better. Things are going to get good. And the valley is only there to prepare us. It's only there to train us to get to the top of the mountain. And I think sometimes when we're in the valley, we really hyper fixate on what is going wrong. And we want the mountaintop experience so bad. We want it so bad. And I think that's a great desire. But when you're looking too far forward and you can't focus on the present and what needs your attention right now, if you're looking at something and it's causing you to struggle over and over and over and over again, and it's a problem, it's not that you're never going to make it to the top of the mountain. It's that you have to address whatever this problem is right now in order for you to get there. And the number one way that I know to deal with a problem when you're in the valley is to start looking around at things to be grateful for. Wherever you find yourself in life, there's always something to be grateful for. And typically, whenever we hit that problem, sometimes it is a bigger issue, but more often than not, it is something so small and insignificant that we've allowed into our mental space to take over and make it seem like the world is over. For example, you might be driving in your car, regular Tuesday. You get cut off, and all of a sudden, now the rest of the day is shit. The rest of the day is awful. One guy cutting you off in traffic on your way to work in the morning has totally changed your course of the day. And you allow that to happen. And we're complaining. And we complain about that. And so when we're in the valley, if we focus on what's going wrong, if we focus on the one guy who cut us off in traffic, it's going to be a lot harder to get to the top. The easiest way, the most efficient way, the best way to handle the valley is to be grateful, is to look around at what is going right. And even when something is going wrong, can we reframe the way that we're thinking about it? When that guy cuts us off in traffic, can it be maybe he was in a rush? Maybe his wife was pregnant and he had to get to the hospital. Maybe he's been late to work 7 or 8 times, and if he's late again, he's going to get fired. And you have some grace, and you give that guy some grace. And in doing so, you also give yourself grace whenever you make a mistake, whenever you're feeling bogged down, whenever you're feeling pissed off, whenever you're feeling pressure. It's this recognition that other people aren't so different from you. And I think that's the power of gratitude. And when you can stay in a mindset of being grateful, even in your dark valley, when you can stay focused on the good, it's pretty remarkable what you can overcome. And at first, sometimes, if you're trying to transition from everything's going wrong mentality to being grateful for something, it can feel a little bit like you're lying to yourself and not genuine. But even on your hardest days, even on your worst days, let's just say, you're in bed all day and it's, you can't get out of bed and you feel horrible, you're having terrible thoughts, you're spiraling, blah, blah, blah. You could still be grateful for a blanket, a pillow, your body, your brain, your eyes, your nose, your ears, the fact that you can hear, the fact that you can breathe, the fact that you got another day, the fact that you're still alive, the fact that you're still breathing, the fact that you're still here, the fact that you still have a fighting chance at whatever it is that you want to do with your life. You're still here. You still have a purpose. You still have a mission. So we're all chasing mountaintop experiences. We genuinely are. And in order to get there, it doesn't happen overnight. We have to go through the valley. We have to go through the valley. We have to go learn something. We have to go try something new. We have to grow. The descent into the mountain will humble us to the point where we'll realize, once we get to the bottom, why we had to be humbled. We'll realize that we didn't know everything that we thought we knew from the mountaintop experience here, and we had to be brought down so that we could get the strength to climb up to the next mountain, so that when you get to the top and you look back down, you realize what all of that was for. You realize what all of the pain that you went through was for. You realize what the lessons were that you had to learn. You realize why that person was in your life. You realize over and over again about, even though it sucked in that moment, I made it here. And even though it sucked then, I'm so grateful that it happened, because it made me the person that I am right now, the person that I am on top of this mountain. And so wherever you are in your life, I would encourage you not to get discouraged about whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish or whatever it is that you're trying to get through, because at some point you will make it to the top of the mountain. And I think you get there by being grateful for each and every day, for each and every opportunity, for each and every breath, for everything that you have and everything that you want to have that is coming into your life, and for the person that you are. We are all capable of having mountaintop experiences. We all want to have mountaintop experiences. We all don't really want to go through the valley in order to get there, but it's always worth it. It's always worth whatever pain and struggle it takes for you to get there. And there's always another mountain to climb. And so it's not so much about being on top of the mountain as much as it is about the journey and the process of getting there, about the learning and the becoming, because it's an endless process. It's an endless journey. We are continually evolving. We are continually growing. And when we get to those mountaintop experiences, it is important to celebrate and to be grateful for the journey that was. And then once we've finished celebrating and being grateful for the journey that was and where we are at, it's time to descend, get back into the valley, and climb again to tackle a new mountain. There's another verse in the Bible that says, "Count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience. But let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing." It's this ongoing process. It's this ongoing purification and cycling of becoming the best version of yourself, of becoming better than who you were yesterday. And so we're supposed to be joyful. We're supposed to be grateful. We're supposed to consider it a blessing when we face trials or struggles or obstacles, because each time that we're faced with something like that, on the other side of it, we're going to grow. We're going to become a more perfect version of ourselves. And I think that's an awesome, awesome thing to get excited about in life. Each day is an opportunity to grow and to learn, to shift your mindset, to be grateful, and to expect the absolute best from yourself and from life. And when you do that, everything starts to change. Everything starts to get better. Doesn't mean you won't face challenges, because you will, but you can face those challenges with a heart of gratitude and humility, and know that coming through it, coming out on the other side, you're going to be a better person for it. You're going to be coming closer to a more perfect version of yourself. And that is the message. That is the inspiration. And that's what we should all be striving toward each and every day. Becoming the best, more perfect version of ourselves. That is all for this video. Hope it helps. And see you next time. Peace.